I said, I can't do this anymore. I want to create. I don't want to be handcuffed. I don't want my success to be dictated by other people. And ultimately, I want freedom. I want to live a life of freedom. And it just all came together. I took the leap. The fear was gone. And because I had that business in motion and I was able to conquer that fear, it took off immediately.
This is Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, your go-to guide to solving your biggest marketing agency challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Alton, and each episode is an honest and frank look at what agencies go through, from turning clients to tackling tech and ideas that you can apply to your own business. And now, the rest of today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing agencies like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling agencies like yours. Now, do you remember when posting great content was all it took to keep your agency's pipeline full? Yeah, those days are fading faster than your client's enthusiasm for another Instagram algorithm change. If you've been scratching your head, wondering why your brilliant blogs and perfectly optimized website aren't bringing in leads like they used to, you're not alone. Welcome to the inbound ceiling, that frustrating plateau where your content machine keeps churning, but the leads have slowed to a trickle. And the truth is, standing out through content alone has become about as easy as explaining TikTok to your grandparents. But before you throw out your content calendar and you throw it out the window, today's guest has cracked the code on breaking through this ceiling. Jason Yormak built Socialistics into a seven-figure social media agency by zigging when others zagged, and he's literally wrote the book on it. His bestseller, Anti-Agency, has become the Rebel's guidebook to building a thriving agency business. As a Forbes recognized social media influencer, Jason's not just talking about theory, he's in the trenches every day, navigating the same challenges you are, and he's figured out how to complement inbound with strategic partnerships and outbound tactics that actually work without making you feel like that pushy salesperson we all love to hate. Hey, Jason, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
So glad to have you here. I'll forgive the Cubs
Yeah,
decor in the background as a St. Louis native. We'll try to move past that. But
thank you.
before we dive into this transition from inbound dependency, could you briefly share just a story of how you built Socialistics and what your lead generation strategy looked like in those early growth years?
Yeah, so I'm a 30-year marketer. Everything I did led up to Socialistics being able to become a thing. And just the short recap is really Microsoft. I worked there for about 6 or 7 years, and that's really where I cut my teeth quite a bit on social media. I kind of got involved in it pretty early, about '07, '06, right when Facebook was transitioning from college campuses to the public domain. So I was in the right place at the right time, and spent a few years launching social media for a variety of different Microsoft products. Spent another 10 or 15 years on the agency side running social media teams. Tried my hand at entrepreneurship a couple times, failed, and then ultimately in 2018 launched Socialistics. And everything just kind of came together for me. You know, everybody's story is a little bit different in terms of entrepreneurs. Some figure it out early on, some figure it out later, but there's no one recipe for that. But for me, it was later in life, and we launched in 2018. And um, I, basically took all of my social media experiences and wanting to run an agency a little bit differently. And certainly, I had a runway. I kind of built a brand. I was still working, and then when I just got so fed up with it, I've had a moving train. So I had a brand and an agency that basically was in motion, which allowed me to jump from, that guaranteed check and benefits to something that felt a little bit less risky, which was a um, huge for me because I still had kids, I still had, lots of responsibilities. So jumping into a high risk situation can be very hard for people. So I write about that in my book. I have a chapter about that, about kind of creating a runway. And that really involved blogging and putting out social media and taking lower cost clients to basically build momentum. I wasn't really focused on making money right away because I didn't need it to do that. So I was really able to take my time and kind of build things up and create some momentum. So by the time I did want to take that leap, yeah, I had some of that momentum. Yeah, I was starting to get some search visibility. I had a portfolio of clients that I had worked with. And basically from there, it really just kind of took off. So certainly in the early stages, my clients came from, my network and referrals. And then it didn't take too long for the work that I did around content and social media to start to bear some fruit. We started to show up in some directories more prominently, and then companies would start to find us. So our inbound strategies really drove the business for the first, I wanna say, 5, 6 years. We really doubled down on making sure that we were putting out great blog posts, we were active on social media, we were a lot of link strategies, making sure we were in directories, and that really allowed us to consistently get qualified leads and not have to worry too much on outbound, which I was always banging my head against the wall trying to figure out and failing repeatedly just because it's hard, it's not to say that it can't work, but you got to have just the tenacity and the determination and the strategic ability to kind of navigate that in the right way, and most can't. So we lucked out quite a bit by having some strong inbound for quite some time that ultimately has us thinking differently now these days as things have gotten more competitive.
Right, and those early years sound like a lot of the agency owners that I've talked to, they're working full time, they're doing work on the side, and
Mhm.
eventually they transition out of the full-time gig, and the inbound plan that you guys were using for years sounds fantastic, but we fast forward 5 years, and all of a sudden now it's not working as well
Yeah,
as it had been. Were there some warning signs or anything that kinda
sure.
clued you in that this is not going to be
Absolutely.
sustainable?
Just increased competition more than anything. We invested in Google Ads for years, and it just became more and more not viable. The ROI just disappeared, and more spam, and it just got to the point where it was almost like we were spending north of $500 per qualified lead, which really isn't
Oh,
sustainable.
yeah.
So that was some writing on the wall. And then also, the directory game, we doubled down on Clutch, and we've sponsored on Clutch for quite some years. We made sure that we had consistent good reviews on there. But our success with that has really diminished because their search visibility has gone down. For those that are listening, Clutch can be great, or Directies can be great, but don't fall into their traps. The only way that those directories can ever return positive ROI is if they are on the front page in the first 5, 6, 7 listings of the keywords that matter to your business. And for us, for Clutch, they did. They used to be on the front page for social media agency, probably the top keyword for obviously what we do. So it made sense to sponsor with them because a lot of people were clicking on that and then looking. And if you're in the top 5 or 6 on their directory, then you're getting a lot of leads, which we have traditionally. That's dried up as well because every time Google changes their algorithms or whatever, that search visibility shifts. So once that disappeared, the combination of that and Google Ads, then our inbound started to really suffer. And I knew that we had to pivot and we had to figure out a way to supplement that diminished inbound frequency. Unfortunately for me, the negative for me in my agency life is that I'm a natural introvert. I'm not the guy that's super well connected and can light up a room. Like I can get on a stage and talk about anything in front of 5,000 people and kill it and love it. But you put me in a room of 10 people and I got to strike up conversations, terrifies me. So I've never really been that well connected per se. A lot of agency owners that come in and get successful right away have a lot of connections and they're able to tap into that to drive a lot of business. I never had that. So it was the inbound that really replaced that. So now that our agency was put into a situation where like last year the economy started to dip, increased competition. What do we do? Ultimately, we had to shift gears and really start getting serious about thinking about partnerships, um, and we've doubled down on organic SEO because paid has just been killing us, and thinking differently about how to drive leads consistently for the agency.
Got it. I first of all, I can't relate more to the whole introvert,
Yeah,
going on stage and killing it. But yeah, that's totally me. I'm an inbound guy, and we're gonna get back to the tactics like partnerships
sure.
and that sort of thing in just a second. But I'm curious about the mindset here because marketing agencies are in this unique situation where not only they market themselves, they're using the techniques and the tactics that they know to
Mhm.
market their clients. Was there this psychological barrier that you had to overcome shifting, more towards outbound and partnership focused approaches?
A little bit because I know, I mean, we're f we're fortunate to be an agency that's been in business for 7 or 8 years. So, we have some protections in place to kind of
Yeah.
survive economic downturns, and, that's not lost on me. I understand that newer agencies or those that are just starting out don't have some of the luxuries that an agency that's been around for a while and has a reputation, can lean back on. So, that's not lost on me. But that being said, I also know that you just can't rest on your laurels and expect to continue to be able to power through those difficult times. So for me, I knew that whatever we were going to do, it's kind of like turning the Titanic. It was going to take time. Like we weren't just going to throw these and snap these things on and instantly have our problems solved. I knew that when it's interesting because what we do in terms for our clients, we certainly we walk the talk. I mean, we certainly put out social media content and do the things that we do, but what we sell is not really a point and click product. It's not the kind of thing that somebody's going to see some of our stuff online and then instantly want to hire us. It's a
Yeah.
very, very long funnel. So, social media for us isn't really a lead driver as much as it's a lead nurturer. So what we do for our clients 9 times out of 10 isn't quite the same of what would work for us. So we have to think a little bit differently. We have to have a more well-rounded, marketing approach to how we position the agency and how we can build a sustainable funnel of leads. And really, I think just it's not one thing that has really dried up inbound. It's the rise of AI, which I think is a good thing, but ultimately we're still in this ambiguous phase where some people think it's going to steal people's jobs. You've got some business owners that think, "Oh, AI will take care of everything and I don't need a marketer and I don't need an agency anymore." They're going to learn the hard way that that's not true. But there's still this volatility in the market where there's some uncertainty about whether businesses and what they should invest in. So, really, for us, it's just doubling down on leveraging AI in really creative and unique ways that excite our prospects and our clients, being transparent about the use of it and how it allows us to free up time to put more creative horsepower into the work that we do, and just making sure that we're a thought leader around those sorts of things. So we have to think very differently about how we treat ourselves than we do our clients. But there's definitely some trickle over in terms of what we learn through what we do that is applicable for a number of our clients.
Yeah, longtime listeners, I'm sure will know I'm very bullish on AI and AI technology, but I
Mhm.
also see it impacting, like you talked about Clutch. Gosh, I'm wondering if there's any real future for directories and similar services with
Uh,
AI overviews and that sort of thing. People
mhm.
just aren't going to go to sites like that. Certainly not like
I don't.
they used to.
Yeah, I don't think so. Look,
Yeah.
Clutch has been a good partner for us for a great many years, but that's not without some extreme frustrations. I mean, they are what they make their money by agencies and businesses paying them for placements. For years, I've been frustrated. Like if you go to the social media, their main social media directory, I mean, the top ones that are up there are these huge agencies that do everything. They're not social media agencies. They do
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 10 different things, but they can afford to just throw money at that and they get what they get. Whereas all of the agencies that are a little bit smaller and are niche focused and do just that thing, it's hard for them to compete with them. Now, is that the
Yeah.
best user experience for the person or the person or the decision maker that's coming in that's looking for a social media agency? No, it isn't. Like in what I would argue, and I think this is goes to your question about how why Clutch is probably going to really feel the pinch They optimize for dollars. They don't optimize for user experience. They were optimized for user experience and tried to make some money. I think they would find that the stuff that they're putting out in their directories might rank better because they're more relevant. And basically, it would be a better user experience. So when people use it, they get what they need out of it. So, yes, I think they're going to suffer tremendously over the next couple years. We're pulling out our sponsorships because the ROI is just not there anymore. Um, so yeah, they if they don't pivot, they're gonna feel some pain.
Yeah, there's definitely specific categories of businesses and industries like that, even just within marketing, that are going to be dramatically impacted
Mhm.
by artificial intelligence. I've been saying for a while now, there's really no longer a reason to pay for stock photography. Not
Yeah,
when you can go to Midjourney or Imagen or
sure.
one of these and simply create the exact image that
Yeah,
you need, whether it's lifelike, cartoonish, whatever you want. You can tell it, I want diverse people sitting on a beach, whatever you need. You can do that at
yeah,
almost no cost whatsoever. Why?
yeah,
I mean, I'm sorry, Shutterstock, but why would I pay for a Shutterstock subscription
yeah.
at this point?
Businesses that don't pivot are gonna learn the hard way. I mean, and we're guilty of that too. I mean, a lot of what we're trying to do with AI is to try to stay ahead of the curve. And, you can't keep doing the same thing and expect, the same results. You've got
Right.
people that are just innovate. The people that are going to be like the people that are complaining about AI taking their jobs are the ones that are not. You have to embrace the technology. You have to learn how to use it, and you need to get out in front of that. The people that are just have this blanket opinion like, "Oh, it's gonna take over the world and we're gonna lose." It's like, that's just lazy thinking in my opinion. Look, AI is not perfect. Like,
Yeah.
it's getting better, and it's not perfect, but it's just like anything. It's like anything else, garbage in, garbage out. So what you make of it
Right.
and how you use it really dictates how great it can be. And I think those that embrace it and actually take the time to understand how they can incorporate it into their offerings are the ones that are going to thrive and succeed over the next 5 to 10 years.
Could not agree more. So let's
Yeah.
talk about one of the ways that you guys have pivoted because you talked about and you mentioned partnerships. This is what my bag at Agorapulse for years. I taught
Hmm.
partnerships, at least from a SaaS perspective. So I'm super curious.
Yeah.
How are you leveraging partnerships from that agency perspective? Is there a criteria that you're using for choosing
Yeah.
partners?
For
Those kinds
sure.
of things.
So it's interesting. I can't over the past 2 or 3 months, our partnership program, which I'll call it that, has exploded, and I'm equally excited and feel validated by the work that we put in, but also frustrated because it took me this long to do it and figure it out. I always was so frustrated because my agency peers would always talk about referrals was their biggest
Yeah.
part of their business, and I'm like, really? Like, how are you getting your clients to like just proactively think about you and sell you to other people? Like, they're busy. Like, how are you getting them to do that? I was so frustrated. And when our inbound dried up, me along with my director of ops and my director of strategy, we kind of just took a lot of time and sat down and really thought through like how can we turn this around? This doesn't make it. We have a great reputation. We have a great portfolio. We know that we're good at what we do. Why are we struggling to get referrals? And ultimately, what it came down to is we felt like we're not taking it as seriously as it needs to be. We need to operationalize a partnership program. We can't just say, hey, let's go out and talk to this agency and let's be friends and let's agree to, you know, be partners and share business with each other. That doesn't sustain. And what we realized is we really needed to come into those conversations with a plan. So we ultimately created a program and with accountabilities, with deliverables, with a set way of managing that relationship in a way where it's mutually beneficial and mutually accountable, which makes it more of a selective process. We can't be partners with everybody. So a couple of things that make
Mm,
that a reality. Number one is you operationalize it. So some examples of that are number one, do we need a partner? Like we exclusivity basically. So we're only going to partner with one agency at everything so that anytime any of our clients need a thing, nobody's competing for that. They have to be
yeah.
vetted. Do they have a good history? Do they have a portfolio? Are they good people? Like they got to check all of those boxes. Do they have a need for us? Do they come across clients that typically ask for social media? So there's got to be mutual interest and need on both sides. A big thing is putting meetings on the calendar, whether it's once a month, once every other month, as a kind of a it's a place to ensure that you kind of keep each other accountable. So when you have that partner meeting on the calendar and you know that it's there, it's going to more likely keep you accountable to making sure that you're putting things in place in your day-to-day operations where you're planting seeds for them. So I know if we've got a partner in our world, I and my team are thinking about that so that when the moment comes with a client where they mention, "Oh, we're thinking about doing email marketing or something like that. Hey, I've got somebody great for you. You should talk to these people." Like, or even proactively recommending it if it aligns to that particular client's needs. So that meeting kind of sets a target. Like, oh, I got that meeting in a week. I better think about what we got going on or what I can share with them because you kind of start to feel like you need to come to the table with something regularly for that partnership to thrive. So really operationalizing it and making it like this professional relationship, I think makes a huge difference. And you really got to be prepared to give them something to work with because then that inspires them to reciprocate. Those things alone have created a pipeline for us that I never imagined possible. We've got some really great partners that have started to throw business our way, and it's, over the first quarter of this year has blown up in terms of a pipeline, and that partnership program has been a big reason for that.
I love hearing that as somebody who actually ran a partnership podcast for over
Mhm,
50 episodes and talked to people and explored how their programs were blowing up. I always love hearing those stories. You shared this really core fundamental truth about partnerships, which is that they're relationships and that they take time.
mhm.
And people need to think about their partner programs in that way. They should be building relationships. It's not, let's just add 1,000 partners next quarter and see what happens. That is not going to end well. I love the way you're approaching that. It's fantastic.
We're taking a step further. We're gonna put a partner page on our website to kinda
Mm,
create some more visibility, and, um, and it's interesting, we find that these partnerships, they evolve quite dramatically over time. Uh, in addition to those partners, when they start to see the work that you're doing, they start to become interested in probably having you do for them what you do. So it really there's a lot of different ways that it goes, and then oftentimes that partnership even grows further. I have one partner where we kind of jump in on client calls together, even if
yeah.
it's just to kind of brainstorm a little bit. So it almost becomes like a collective effort sometimes. So it's really interesting how those things can go. Some partners will be a little bit more significant than others, but we don't we've become as selective with our partners as we do with our um our leads. We've always said no a lot, no more than we say yes. We've learned to be that way, and we treat partnerships the same way. For example, I just had somebody reach out a couple days ago that does paid Google ads, which we don't really have a partner
Mm.
with yet. And their stuff looked great and everything, but ultimately I came to the conclusion that this isn't going to work because they weren't based in the US. So all most 95% of our clients are in the US. And I know that I can't recommend somebody that isn't gonna be in the same time zone and have the same kind of availability that we do. So that's another important thing is shared core values, shared operational excellence. Like, you really wanna make sure that an agency that you're partnering with kinda operates at the same type of level, thinks of things through the same lens, because you wanna make sure that when you're referring them, that client of yours is gonna get a seamless or similar experience, because I don't want my reputation tarnished because I said, "You should go work with these guys," and then that goes south. That hurts us then. So, there's a lot to work through to make sure that it's gonna be a good relationship.
Have you explored using any of these CRM partnership tools like Reveal or Crossbeam, where you're able to see your client versus your partner's clients and where you might have overlap?
No, no, we're not at that level. I think everything we're doing right now is pretty manual, in
Yeah.
terms of just identifying some like the low hanging fruit. Like, we knew
Mm.
email marketing, web. SEO, just kind of like some of those key categories that most of the clients that we work with have a need for and shoring up those relationships. But there's certainly, I'm sure there's a higher ceiling and more that we can do as these things develop.
Yeah, for you and then the agency owners listening, if you've got agency partners like what Jason's talking about, and you're using a system like HubSpot or Salesforce for your your leads and everything, you can use a tool like Reveal that'll
Mm,
connect and look at your HubSpot database or your Salesforce database, and then also your partners. And it'll show you like almost like a Venn diagram. Here are all of your contacts, but here are the ones that are also customers of your partners or prospects of your partners or not customers.
mhm.
And that can open up additional what we call near bound, not inbound or outbound, but near
Mm,
bound opportunities.
nice.
Because, if like you don't do email, so you're partnering with an email agency and you're a social media marketing agency. Well, every customer of your email agency partner, they need organic social media. They may
Mhm,
not be paying for it today, or they may not want it, but they need it. So all of their customers should be prospects of yours.
mhm.
So you could potentially get warm introductions from their sales team into a good lead. Or if you notice that someone that you're talking to as a prospect is also a prospect of your partner, then that's an opportunity for a co-selling meeting.
For sure.
Now let's talk about outbound tactics,
Mm,
because I know many folks, myself included, don't want to be that person who's
mhm.
sending cold emails and making cold calls. How have you structured your outbound
Yeah.
approach to
In
maintain authenticity and not feel so pushy?
Yeah. Well, I would say our efforts are more what I would call warm outreach. Instead of spraying and praying, instead of like attacking with a machine gun or attacking with a sniper rifle. It's really more about being very strategic and taking more time with who we approach with a very authentic, targeted, educational, entertaining, informative approach. And it's a grind. The correlation that I can make is that when we first were starting out, our proposal pitch process was nowhere near the level of time and sophistication that it is today. What once took, I mean, we used to spend maybe a couple hours. I mean, we're 15, 20 hours on a pitch these days. I mean, we're delivering a level of strategy and insight that most would have had to have paid for 3, 5 years ago. But that's what we have to do to win business. It's just getting more and more competitive. That is the price of admission to be an agency these days for good paying clients. Same thing applies with cold outreach. It just, especially when it comes to social media, which inherently comes with an emotional tie to it. Like when you think about business decision makers, when you think about SEO or Google ads or a website, these are tangible things. I need a website. I don't have an opinion about whether having a website or not having a website. No, of course you do.
Yeah.
SEO, I need to invest in SEO if I want to rank higher. I need to invest in Google ads if I want to rank. Like these things don't come with an emotional opinion, whereas social media very often we'll come across decision maker. I don't like social media or I hate TikTok. I think it's dumb. So they come with these kind of preconceived opinions about it. So that influences their, decision making sometimes. So that's very difficult to do. So when you think about cold outreach and you're trying to blast out a lot of stuff and you're talking about, I mean, we're already at an additional disadvantage because we're talking about subject matter that oftentimes people are not they have an emotional opinion about and oftentimes negatively. So it especially doesn't work in my world. So we have to be really specific about who we talk to, how and what that looks like. So we spend a tremendous amount of time with custom landing pages, custom portfolios, case studies that speak to a very specific industry, and then really making hit lists of like we would really love to work with this client. So I oftentimes we'll get our team together and I'll ask them identify 2 or 3 clients that would be your dream clients. And then we'll dive deep. We'll put some work in and we'll really try to see where are they at with their social media efforts, where are their opportunities and backing that up with data and then approaching those points of contact with a really customized, authentic, entertaining, or informative or educational communication. It could be a Loom video, it could be a visual thing. really just there's a lot of depth to it, and you have to go into it understanding that it's still in most cases it will fall on deaf ears or will require just time. It's really about timing. You don't know when putting the right thing in front of the right person at the right time when you can hit all of those things. It's very difficult to do, but you have to just grind and consistently do that and not have an expectation of a result. You have to build that in to the operations of your business and understand that you're planting seeds and you're putting these things out in the world, because even if that particular prospect who you've sent a couple things to effectively may not need it today, they might need it in 3 months, and they're gonna remember that impactful thing that you sent them. Maybe they stuff it away and wait for another day. That's happened to us time and time again where those efforts don't bear fruit, and then 6 months later, we get a lead that comes through, and then they'll mention, "Oh, I actually reached out to you guys because back in February of '23, you sent this awesome thing, and we weren't just quite ready yet." So, it's not a quick fix. It's not gonna change your world right away. It's gonna require significant time and effort, but if you wanna compete in this world, in this day and age, like, that's the type of approach that you're gonna have to take to build a pipeline that inevitably will grow as you mature as a business.
I think that was a really profound and philosophical picture of the difference between a social media marketing agency and virtually every other kind of marketing agency because of that perception of social media potentially negatively by owners.
Yeah.
Folks, we're talking with Jason Yarmark about shifting from inbound sales to outbound sales, and there's a lot we still need to cover. But first, a quick message from Ian Anderson Gray.
In terms of my social media use, because I'm a solopreneur, the personal and business kind of are meshed together quite a lot. So I use pretty much most of the networks out there: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and I post a lot. I schedule a lot of content, but I'm also doing a lot of engagement with people. So I've used loads of tools over the years. I enjoy investigating them and seeing what works, what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, I was getting frustrated that a lot of these tools, that there was always something lacking. Either the user interface was kind of clunky, or there was a missing feature that to me just seemed like really obvious that was missing. Now, when I first started using Agorapulse, it wasn't perfect. It didn't have all these features, but over time, what I've loved about Agorapulse is the way they really listen to the audience, and they've implemented so many of these features I've wanted. Not immediately, but over time. And so the initial reason for me using it was the way I could get through the engagement really, really quickly. But now we've got this facility to be able to recycle content and schedule content, and the analytics reports have improved. And so I'm finding now that even though I like to use lots of different tools, I don't really have so much of a need to use. I'm using a few, but far less than I did in the past.
So, Jason, I'm assuming you haven't like 100% shifted to outbound. What's the percentage? What's the split today between inbound versus outbound?
Oh,
And
yeah.
how did you figure that out?
Yeah, I mean, it's still vastly significant more in the inbound. I mean, when I say and I guess it depends on whether you would categorize partnerships as inbound versus outbound, but I would say our strictly our outbound efforts are 20 to 30% in comparison to the other side. I think, we've I've shifted my Google ad dollars to SEO to just kind of improve our organic listings. So that's helped quite a bit. We never really invested in that, and I felt like just the light switch marketing was just it just ran its course. I'm
Mm.
competing against much bigger agencies that have bottomless budgets, and I can't compete there. So, but yeah, it's about a 70-30 split, I'd say.
Got it. So,
Yeah.
are there specific metrics that you're using to kind of track the effectiveness of some of these different channels? And have you noticed a difference in client quality, like lifetime value, that sort of thing, based on the source?
For sure. Referrals definitely come in. Referral leads are better. I mean, this is, most people know this already, but a referral lead is stronger for sure. It's almost like we're only competing against ourselves in those cases. And if they come in from a partner that's been working with them for an extended period of time, that certainly increases the likelihood of that relationship lasting time, because that's a signal that tells us this isn't the type of decision maker or business owner that's quick to, you know, stop something because it hasn't worked for a month. They have, some patience, which is necessary, for what we do. So referrals are always a stronger lead, and ultimately there's a higher probability of landing it and a higher probability of them being a long-term client. Organic as well is stronger than I would say paid. We were just getting so much spam with the paid. The organic inquiries that we get seem to just be, it's almost like if somebody puts in a little bit more work to find you, they're a better lead. So it makes a little bit more sense if they go a little bit like if if they're clicking you and you're 1, 2, or 3, you're prime for getting a lot of junk. But if they're clicking you in the organic listings and they have to scroll up a little bit, they're probably much more likely to be actually looking for the thing that you're doing. So definitely quality over quantity. The volume of leads that we're getting is lower, but the quality has risen dramatically. And that's a great place to be because it means we're not having to spend as much time qualifying leads. So that's been super helpful in terms of how our time is spent and really being able to vet folks before we even get on those initial phone calls. But we're using, Google Analytics and some manual reports that we built for ourselves that help us understand sources of leads, quality of leads, those sorts of things.
That makes complete sense. My
Yeah.
bestie is Jen Herman, the world's best Instagram blogger. We've had her on the retail show, and she's always said, "Look, if someone becomes a lead from Instagram, man, you know that they want it because they saw the post in their feed, and they had to
Mhm.
tap through to your profile, and then they had to tap a link to get to your website, and then they had to tap another link to go to a contact form and fill
Yeah.
that on their phone. Wow, the hurdles that they had to go through to get in touch with you, they really want to work with you. So that's
Mhm.
amazing that you're seeing that in some of those other channels. Completely understand that.
Sure.
Let's talk about your book before we run out of time
Yeah.
because I want to talk about anti-agency. It's become a bestseller for those. Hey, we've got the props, folks.
Yeah.
Those who are listening, Jason just held up a copy of his book. We'll definitely have a link to that in the show
Sure.
notes. But these are for people who want to build successful agencies. You're sharing your wisdom of all these
Mhm.
years. What are some of the resources or tools that you feel have just been the most valuable personally as you've kind of navigated this transition this past couple of years?
Yeah, I don't know that there's technology played as much of a big role in it. Really, the biggest thing that I think my favorite chapter in the book, and I kind of referenced this earlier, was this idea of building momentum, like building something. Because for most people, you don't have a ton of money sitting around, or you don't have the ability to just decide to launch an agency or a business. Like you have kids, you have a mortgage payment. You're wired as an entrepreneur. You know that that's how you're wired and that's what you want to do, but maybe you just can't take that leap because you need that paycheck and you need those benefits. And that's kind of where I was. But I knew that I was, at some point I had to do my own thing. And for me, I had to create something concurrently while maintaining my job. And that's really the biggest thing. So that chapter really dials into my experience and how I did that. I knew that I needed to build a brand. I needed to create a website. I needed to get excited about a name and a brand. I needed to create a platform for me to write and to put stuff out in the world and to talk about things and to create some search juice, some SEO momentum, start to offer to friends, family, um, either doing some free work or some lower cost work because I had the paycheck to build up a portfolio. I had to do all those things and put those all in motion. And I know if I could do that and build that up, then taking the leap from the full-time job with the check and the benefits into something that was already in motion would make it much more likely that I would take that leap, because fear is really what had crippled me in my previous attempts. I had tried to do this 10 years ago, but that fear of failing, that fear of it not working, that fear of not being able to pay my bills always crept up in my psyche. And I never really realized how much that got in the way. And when I ultimately reached a point where I just got so fed up with my current situation, I just I just took the leap. I said, I can't do this anymore. I want to create. I don't want to be handcuffed. I don't want my success to be dictated by other people. And ultimately, I want freedom. I want to live a life of freedom. And it just all came together. I took the leap. The fear was gone. And because I had that business in motion and I was able to conquer that fear, it took off immediately. And it sounds really kind of amiable, like it's like this weird thing. I know some people, want a really specific, tangible, measurable concept to help them understand how I was able to do a thing. And it sounds kind of, wishy-washy when you talk about conquering fear, but it's huge because it does hold you back. And I think the combination of lowering the risk was able to lower and eliminate the fear, and putting that in motion, really, that to me, that was the number one reason why I am where I am at today, because I created something that was in motion and had some momentum that allowed me to take the leap without fear and with high level of confidence, and it took off from there. So for me, that's the biggest thing more than anything. I mean, certainly my experience, like working at Microsoft and learning how to interview people and being really good at assessing talent, that certainly plays a part. That's never one thing, but you also have to be prepared to fail because you're going to, and you just need to learn from those experiences. So for me, that was the biggest thing.
Well, ironically, what I love the most about this is that it isn't this structure that I'm gonna buy for $49 and launch an agency in 2 weeks. It's not that.
Hmm.
It's your authentic experience, and it's a real life roadmap for starting a sustainable business in a safe yet fear conquering way, I guess we could say, right?
Yeah,
Where you're building that on-ramp and so on. So I love that so much. And like I
yeah.
said, folks, we'll put a link to that book in the show notes below, because whether you're just starting your agency or you've been doing this for years, we all need ideas. We all need guidance. We can all learn from each other. That's, in fact, why we have this podcast. I'm talking to agency owners all the time, sharing exactly this, their experiences and how they've succeeded. And Jason, you've been absolutely amazing. This has been such a
Thank you.
fun and insightful conversation. For folks who do want to learn more about you, maybe they want to connect with you or reach out, where should they go?
Sure. They can find my agency at our name, socialistics.com. You'll find that pretty easily. And then personally, I do talks. I write, obviously, I have my book. I write all the time and do talks. You can find me personally at my name, jasonyormark.com.
Fantastic. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, all of you, for listening. As always, we'll have all the links to Jason's socials and everything in the notes below. But that is all the time we've got for today, friends. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition on Apple or Spotify. Drop us a review. Let me know what you thought about this episode of the show overall, and I'll take that in the next episode. Until next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by AgoraPulse, the #1 rated social media management solution, which you can learn more about at agorapulse.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and be sure to leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us.